Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Welcome to the show. Today's episode is 185, and today we have the lovely Denise Richards, who is a psychic, medium, coach and hypnotherapist. And today we're going to be talking about intuition with the tarot and coaching. I'm your host, Karen Roberts, helping coaches and therapists get their message heard to the people who need to hear it. Welcome to the show, Denise, first of all.
Thank you.
And guys, if you don't have the Alexa skill to download Mintwave Radio, and you can subscribe to weekly updates to what shows are coming on the following week, you can go to KarenRobertsCoaching.com/guest and you'll be able to sign up there. And if you want to be a guest, you can apply there. Now, Denise has been able to see the aura since she was 14 years old after a road accident, which left her seriously injured with a fractured skull. Later, she learned how to use the gift to tune into the energy field around the body. She discovered she could see what was happening both emotionally and archetypally. How do I say that, Denise? Archetypally.
Archetypally.
Archetypally with her clients. You're going to have to explain that one. She's since learned how to use the tarot and absent healing and remote viewing. So it's quite a large area that you deal with. But Denise, first of all, if you'd like to share a little bit more about your story, how you came to be doing what you're doing now through obviously a tragic accident. It's funny how these things happen.
So nice to meet you, Karen, and so wonderful to be on your podcast. What happened when I was 14 years old? In fact, the year before that, I had a burst appendix and nearly died. And then a year later, I was hit by a car on the way to school, and the car overtook the bus that I was meant to catch and hit me and threw me up into the air. And I landed very awkwardly, I think, from what people told me. And my left leg was smashed in 9 places, the femur, the fibula, and I fractured my skull. And immediately after the accident, I was floating up above myself and I was looking at myself and I felt this beautiful mist, and my nan, who I loved so much, immediately came to my mind, and I found myself observing her eating breakfast. So this was in the morning, about 8:45. I was late for school. And I remember seeing her eat her cornflakes, thinking, oh, with my nan now. And then I saw my mom emptying the rubbish in the bin in the garden. And I thought, oh, this is weird, I can float. And I was really quite enjoying it at the time. And then it went blank. And then the next thing, I was awake after surgery, and my was in a brace, and I've had not an operation on the skull, but I had all these like metal things holding my head still and the leg as well. And I was hospitalized for about a month. And I noticed not long after the accident that I was aware of the energy, initially around trees and animals and then humans. And it really scared the life out of me because I was a typical 14-year-old, didn't fully understand. I wasn't spiritual in any particular way. In fact, I was quite rebellious. Had a really challenging childhood. I was the oldest of 8 children, and it was tough. And I began to see what now I know to be the aura, but at that point it was like just energy around things. And I was more intuitive, or at least I didn't know it was intuition then. It was like being more aware of what people were thinking, how they were feeling. And I was scared of it, and I just repressed it, and ultimately it left me. But the trauma of the accident remained with me, and I became more rebellious, more hard, and I ran away from home a couple of years later. And so began my journey, my healing journey, to overcome the traumas of my childhood, as well as the traumas of the accidents. So in a nutshell, that's what happened and how I became aware of energy, but I didn't start utilize it until much later when I trained as
Wow.
a reflexologist.
You trained as a reflexologist. It's all linked, isn't it? These certain countries have known this stuff relating to energy for centuries, thousands of years. We in the West tend to be a little bit late to the table. But I mean, it's amazing now that when science comes into, whether you call it woo, but so what you were seeing with the aura, they can now photograph it now. So we know this is real. We know this is real. This isn't just, I call it a sprinkling of, I mean, it's woo woo, but it's amazing that now the science is coming to prove it, because for some people, it's like they need to hear that proof that it's been scientifically proven for something that you woke up after an accident and was able to see
Yeah.
the aura. And no wonder it would be quite frightening. I can remember what I was like as a 14-year-old. So yeah, I would have been the same, bit rebellious.
Yeah.
And you hear this a lot. You suppress it and put it to one side.
Yeah.
So then what happened? How did you then take it on to the sort of the next step?
After the accident, I used to get terrible migraines and I lived with continuous headaches. And all the doctors would say I had this drug is because of the accident. And I was told I'd never walk again, that my life would never be the same. And then at home, I got criticised because of the scars I had, particularly from my father. He would always tell me I was ugly, stupid, couldn't talk properly. He would want to be the woman or the girl that was scarred. So I was very unhappy at home. And so I ran away eventually. And as I said, that began my journey. But I was plagued with migraines and hip pain. And seeing the doctors wasn't enough because they would just prescribe me medication. And also, I used to get told I was a hypochondriac and that I was imagining it. I wasn't. I was in so much pain. And it wasn't until I got married and we're living in Melbourne, Australia, and I had a nervous breakdown there. I think because of the accumulation of the stress and being a long way from home, I don't know. And then we returned to live in the UK, and progressively the migraines got worse. And in the end, I woke up one day and I couldn't lift my head off the bed, and I looked in the phone book, and I managed to find a guy who's a chiropractor. He was first, his last name was Aberdeen. So in the phone book, he was at the front, AB. And he was nearby. So I literally rang him. I thought, I got to see someone. I don't know what a chiropractor is, but I'm sure he might be able to help my headaches. And I was led to him because he did all these applied kinesiology. He tested my muscles. He did so many different things. And he said to me, you've got whiplash, you've got severe trauma all through the body. And he told me like my life story. He told me what had happened to me and how it had happened. I think, my God, I haven't told you anything and you're explaining to me in so much detail. And but he said, the thing is, I can't treat your neck and your headaches until you get your teeth sorted out. What, my teeth? He said, your upper molars have grown down into the gaps of your lower teeth, which you've obviously had extracted, which I did from eating sweets as a child. So the upper teeth have grown down into the gaps, making the whiplash worse because it locks the jaw. Because at night you're meant to move your mouth and free up the jaw, but I couldn't because my teeth were resting in the gap, which locked my jaw even more. So the whiplash was worse, so the headaches were worse. So he referred me to a dentist who shaved my upper teeth and added a bridge and a crown to the lower teeth. And then the headaches began to ease off. Then I went back to the chiropractor, and that began my healing journey. He was a lifesaver, this man. So I went to him for many years and referred hundreds of people to him. But it was through him I had reflexology, because he had a reflexology in his practice. So I had reflexology and I loved that as well. And I thought, okay, I want to learn about this. So I trained as a reflexologist. So it was David, chiropractor, that introduced me to reflexology. And then from there, I allowed aura to come through and go, okay, I need to learn about this now. This was way back in 1989.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And it just goes to show this is the trouble with our system. And this isn't against doctors. This isn't against it all. It's just that you hear this so much where people can be told, "Oh, it's all in your head." Because, and we're going to talk about intuition, right? Nobody knows your body as well as you. So no matter what anybody in a white coat you know what's happening in your body. And the fact that we are mental, physical, spiritual, emotional beings, we're pretty complex, aren't we? There's a lot going on. And if one thing's out of whack, and I can understand chiropractor. I was a sports therapist for 27 years. And I always used to think, you know what? Like if everybody actually came together to treat the person as a whole, you may decide, okay, this person would benefit maybe from a deep massage to release the muscles, then to see the chiropractor. And then once that's done, the reflexology to flush, to free up the whole energy. Working on the body as a whole rather than, okay, you have this symptom, take this. How did we even get to this place where anybody would think that one particular tablet is going to be a cure-all for a symptom? Because how do you know where it's all come from? Like you say, it could have been linked to childhood trauma and then the trauma of the accident. We're such complex beings. So what I'm hearing from you is that you're utilizing different tools in your toolbox to actually help people in a more holistic way.
Totally, I agree with you, Karen. And we're energy beings and we're intuitive beings. And we're taught from a very early age not to acknowledge the gut feelings that we have and the intuitions that we have. And we're conditioned out of that. And I think we're waking up to that more and more now. And it's being recognized through quantum physics. I think science is at last recognizing the role.
Yes.
And they're now realizing that we are not just cells and tissue and muscle and organ and bone. We're a lot more than that. And a lot of it still hasn't been explained.
Not at all. Even from I come from a very physical sports therapy. Yeah. This muscle does this. But even then, when I did my training, I don't even want to think about how many years ago, but we didn't even talk about the fascia that is covering everything from the, and we now know that actually that plays a massive role because it's almost like another brain. It's all interconnected. And we seem to have so many different systems in the body that it's not just what we can't cut an arm and see the energy going through it. You can't see it with the naked eye. And yeah, you're right. Now, as we said, science is proving this. So people, I think it's opening it up. People are starting to listen. Newtonian physics has almost been debunked and quantum physics. And now we've gone into another land that actually we know nothing. We haven't even.
I come from, we don't know anything, but we know that we have a part of us which is beyond thoughts and emotion, the higher self, the spirit, whatever you want to call it. And that energy, if we can access that, is so powerful. It can help us heal the body, the mind, the soul, the spirit at every level. And as for myself, I was told I would never be able to do sport. Well, I used to do triathlons and half marathons. And it's just literally believing that you can. It's all about belief.
Yeah. And I suppose, we have been conditioned to not trust our intuition. We have totally given our power away to an external force, imaginary, authoritarian group of people. Yet, like you say, you knew your body, you knew something was wrong. And luckily, you went out and searched for answers. Unfortunately, many people, it's almost like they accept that diagnosis and take ownership.
Yeah. And I
such a shame.
thought that my teeth, because when I smiled, I thought, not everyone has still got beautiful teeth, Denise, but I did have these extractions down here. And I would never have thought that my teeth would worsen the migraines and the whiplash and the back pain I was experiencing. And it wasn't
Right.
until the chiropractor told me, yes, of course, because you're locking your jaw and that creates more whiplash in your neck because it's trauma. And I never realised that. So it just began a whole long journey for me to overcome my own traumas, not only physical trauma, but mental and emotional trauma as well. And it's a
So
beautiful,
how,
it's a painful one at times.
yeah, how can people, what would you say to people to encourage them to trust that inner voice, to trust that gut feeling? Because it's never wrong, is it?
No, but there is a charge on that, because if you're living in your ego mind and you're living in fear and trauma, and you're not in that I call alpha states where you're in that dreamlike hypnotic trance where your ego has moved away a little bit and you're in that almost quietness, that's when we're more alert and more receptive, and that's where intuition can start to help us. But when we're in the ego mind, the fear mind, the mind that's reacting to our environment from our past conditioning, what we think is intuition might not be intuition, which is why I say to my clients, we really need to get into that alpha brain frequency to raise your vibration, either meditation, hypnotherapy. There's many ways to get there, but it's not through the egoic mind. It's going to be through the alpha, the higher, let's say higher, lower frequency. It raises the vibration so you can begin to trust the quiet inner voice that resides within you. It really can help and support you. But when it's around fear and what you've experienced, you might be thinking, oh, my ego is, oh, it's often the ego, not intuition that you're hearing. So that's why meditation is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. So they could misinterpret that's a message from the ego. Again, going back to, I say this so many times, we need to get out of our own way. The ego mind wants to be in control, and we need the ego. The ego has its place,
Of course.
but we need to learn how to use it as a tool rather than allow it to control us. But
Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, it is that we are in such a doing society. The ego is in charge all the time. And I think many people misunderstand the power of meditation or doing the things to raise your vibration, because it appears that you're not doing anything. And we live in a doing world and we need to do. But actually, it is finding that balance of doing and not doing,
Yeah.
being,
And
to
they
get
called
there.
it the monkey mind, when a lot of people say, I try meditation, it doesn't work because my thoughts wander. And I say that's because the monkey mind wants to flip and go here, there, and everywhere. And the meditation I teach people, the alpha state meditation, have you heard of Jose Silva?
I've heard the name.
Yeah,
I've
well,
heard the name.
his meditation technique is one where you solve problems, not one where you go into this. Because if you just sit, and it's good to do that, to sit quietly and relax, it's a good meditation. But if you want to access a part of you, your intuition, you want to start creating and manifesting in your life, the mind likes a job to do. The monkey mind needs to be given something to do. So when you go into meditation with the Jose Silva method, you're actually you're asking your mind, your monkey mind, to help you solve the problem. Otherwise, the mind goes off on a tangent. You start mulling over the past, because we are an accumulation of our experiences. So it's about managing your thoughts in a way, in a quiet way, and working with the mind to help you to achieve your goals and your dreams. And with the Silver method and hypnotherapy, which I do, for manifesting, you start harnessing the power of your subconscious or your higher conscious mind and raising your vibration. So you're working towards solutions, not focusing on problems.
Because that seems to be the common thing, doesn't it?
It's like people
People's
don't meditate because they go into this reverie where they're mulling over all their problems, and it actually makes it worse in a way. Whereas if you think,
yeah,
okay, I'm going to focus on a goal that I have, the goal will bring up the resistance you have to that goal, which is why I love doing the meditation. If I have a goal, a big goal, my mind will immediately bring up the reasons why I can't do it. Have you noticed that?
yep,
And it can lead
yep,
to procrastination, excuses. You hear people say, this is my life, it doesn't work for me, this is how it's always been. That's fear-based. So if we get to that's the resistance. So if we work on how do I erase the resistance, I keep looking at it and allowing it, breathing with it, don't push it away, and gradually it begins to go. And then you
right.
can start to access your super conscious, your higher conscious, where the intuition resides, and you can start trusting the answers that you get. For
And
instance,
now,
recently I was shopping, renovating my bathroom, and I was getting myself in a bit of a pickle, and I had to buy tiles and grouts, and I'd forgot to do it. I'd left it to the last minute, and I had the tiler coming the next day. I thought, oh no, I've got to go out and buy tiles. So I went out, had my mobile phone with me, and I ordered them in one shop and went somewhere else. And then I returned to the shop to pick the tiles up. And I was in a bit of a pickle, and I got home and I realised I didn't have my mobile phone. I'd left it. And you know how the energy of the flat was different. Oh my God, where's my mobile? And it was 8 o'clock in the evening. And I was getting myself into a state, as you do. It's like you've had a limb amputated losing your phone. I thought, it's 8 o'clock, there's no shops open now. I thought, Denise, calm down, you need to go into Alpha. And I meditated on it. I went into Alpha and I said to my intuition, where's my phone? And I waited, and suddenly I got an image of a beautiful young girl wearing a red tunic with big false black eyelashes. And then I remembered the girl in the red tunic with the false eyelashes was in the last shop I went to. And I trusted it and I stopped worrying. And the next morning at 7:15, I drove to B&Q where I bought the tiles from. And I went to the reception area, and I went to the collection point, and I told them what happened. And the girl walked out the back office with a hand behind her back, said, what does your mobile look like? And I told her a description of the phone. She said, here it is.
wow,
And that was
there
me
you go.
trusting,
That's
getting
just
out of my
proof.
way, getting out of
Yeah.
my way, going into Alpha, that higher brain frequency where everything lies in the ether. And I was told where my phone was, and I totally trusted it. And I slept really well that night, knowing where my phone was, and it was there.
Oh, there you go. And that's because when you do get caught up in those stories and panic mode,
Yeah,
you're never going to, the
yeah,
solution is never going to present itself. It is when we calm, because we do know our inner, whatever you want to call it, whatever you choose to call it, knows.
yeah,
It
yeah,
can remember.
yeah,
Our ego can't. It is quite fascinating that, and like you say, it's everything that we need and everything we want it is in the ether. We're so focused, so laser focused on things,
yeah,
solid, and actually it's all in the space. It's all in the empty. It's all in the nothingness,
out there.
which is
Yeah,
a hard concept for some to get. But you also use tarot
yeah.
for with your coaching. Does this all link up, or is this? I mean, you've got your intuition, but you're using tarot. What's the real difference, and how is that all working to help with coaching?
Not everyone has tarot with coaching, but a lot of my clients know that I read tarot. So they might ask, what did the cards say? What did the cards say about this? So this started happening in Australia when a lot of my clients, because they knew I did the tarot, would incorporate it into their choices about their work. When they were working with me, I was their coach. And I started including the tarot within the coaching. So I offer that as well now. I do normal tarot reading on its own as well. But say, for instance, how I have an entrepreneur he was in Australia, he then moved to America. He's in the tech industry. And he's had tarot coaching from me from the beginning. When he's had major questions about, shall I do that? Shall I do this still? What do you think, Denise? And we do our coaching bit, and he'd be held accountable for that. And he'd have his homework to do, and we'd do it. But because he's such an intuitive young man, he wanted me to put the cards out just to give him that little bit of more insight and intuition into it. And I have to say, some of the testimonials I've got from him and others have said, God, it's so insightful to use the tarot as well. It helps at every level.
So for people who are listening, if they don't really, they might misunderstand what the tarot cards are. Can you explain what is going on there? You're a channel. How is this helping an entrepreneur with their business?
Have a question about a deal and there's going to be a negotiation, contracts, and I shuffle the cards for them, and we get cards which might say a timing card. This may not be the right time today or tomorrow to talk to this person. Or we might get the 8 of Wands, which is a good communication card, which is open, swift communication. I might then say, I think you need to talk to this person soon because this is the right time for you. Certain cards will give me timings and seasons, almost energies around the questions that they've got. It might bring up their own inner archetypal fears around the situation that might be holding them back. Like, for instance, I had a lady in Australia years ago. She worked for one of the big banks and she was after a promotion to manager. And she was brilliant at her job, but she just could not get promoted. And we did the tarot and we got cards about holding back and fear. So I thought we need to do some hypnosis on this. So we did. And she had this mental block about thinking she was only worth, and I think she said at the time, 80,000 a year, which is in Australian dollars. She thought that was all she was worth. Now, when you get promoted to manager at that time, it's about $150,000 a year to be a manager. But because her mentality was, I'm only worth 80, she could never get promoted because she was telling whoever was interviewing her at the time, I'm not worth the job. I'm not worth 150,000 a year. And because 96% of communication is non-verbal, it was that lack mentality that she was projecting over to those that were interviewing her. And once we broke through that belief that she's had a long time, after a while, it took a few months, but she got promoted to manager because she suddenly realized, oh my God, I only think I'm worth so much. It's only half what the other jobs. So it's having these breakthroughs and realizing, oh my God. And the tarot revealed that. I said, what's holding you back? These cards are saying something within you is holding you back here. So it's a
Back
good way
to
to
beliefs.
the knowledge. Limiting beliefs. Yeah.
Back to limiting beliefs. How does this all help heal trauma and anxiety?
It could reveal to me that they've had childhood trauma. I can see, perhaps looking at their aura, that they may have had a challenging relationship with a parent or a challenging love relationship. Cards will show that as well. And then when you start explaining to them what you're seeing, what their blockages are, they usually open up and share with you. So it's a great way to get to the crux of the matter a lot quicker than it would be if you were just doing it very traditionally with hypnosis.
Right.
And it works for me. Look, it may not be what everyone else will do, but it works for me. And I love the
And your
tarot.
clients.
The tarot, it's like reveals to me a lot about the person I'm working with. And I want to help them, want to be there for them.
So you're really covering all areas. So who is your ideal client? Who do you love to work with?
As I work with both men and women, but by far I see more women than men. And I'd say that I help midlife women raise their vibration and overcome limiting beliefs and obstacles that are holding them back so they can create the life that they want. Your kids are growing up, you don't want to go back to your old career, but you don't know what to do, or you may have ended a relationship. Things change as you get older. And it's about, how do I align myself now to the vibration that I want to be, because I don't want to go back and do what I did before, but that's all I know. So I help mainly women explore other options and to give them the confidence by teaching them the techniques with the alpha meditation. And I use like trauma release as well, EMDR therapy. It's a toolbox that I have. But I won't use it on everyone. It will be what that person needs. Every client I actually tailor and I customize. But the program I usually work with them is to overcome the limiting beliefs, to raise their vibration, and to help them be the best, version of themselves. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. Yeah, and you're helping them get out of their own way.
Yes, yes. I meditate every day because I gotta get out of my way as well. And it's interesting with energy, because before our chat today, as usual, I get a bit nervous thinking about how it's going to go. And I think because my energy is quite strong, it even affects the internet. The internet started going a bit strange, and I find that happens a lot. Things react to me very quickly. Okay, I'm listening. Yes, I'm going to do this, and you don't want to. And then things settle down, and I have to get out of my own way as well.
All of this takes practice. I know that when I'm not practicing it, that I can, because like everyone, I can get complacent quite easily sometimes. But I notice it in my day. I notice it, how I'm feeling, might be a bit angsty and overworking, really. Like it's hard work. Whereas when I do add it into my practice and I do, what I call it my morning ritual, whatever, things just flow. Everything is easier. We've got this, we just seem to have everything back to front. And I haven't dealt with it all. It's a work in progress. And it's something that I have to go back to. I want to go back to, because who doesn't want life to be easier? Who doesn't want life to flow better? Who wants to work really hard at things and really push
Absolutely.
it? But we go back to our almost it's like a default setting. Ideally, I'd like to just totally clear that default setting so I don't have to go back. Just like we have to food every day and we have to drink water every day. We've got to practice this stuff. It doesn't just happen and we're a changed human beings.
And
there's a lot going on.
Teach you tools it's a training. I give you the tools to go away, to begin to release, because at the end of the day, we are an accumulation of our experiences and we're reacting to the world according to those experiences. And the way to break through it and overcome it, the limiting beliefs, is not to go into the past and keep dwelling on it, but it's to recognize it and honor it and allow it and look at ways to move through it. And this is what you're doing perfectly with your podcast, with your work. You're helping so many women and men to overcome their limiting beliefs and create. Because a lot of particularly healers have this thing about being spiritual and not making money. Well, where does that idea come from? It absolutely
so common.
It's so common, isn't it? People think, you shouldn't charge for healing. They want to go over and live in Australia 2 years, where people are not afraid to charge for their skills. And I learned that over there, but you shouldn't be afraid because you have value. But a lot of spiritual healers think you shouldn't charge for doing that, or they undervalue or undercharge people. And I help
Could that be linked to past trauma? Maybe not even in this lifetime traumas. Maybe it's almost
generational. Yeah.
Generational. But yes, we do hear that. We do hear that an awful lot. But my answer would be money is just energy. There's got to be this flow. If there's a block and you're doing something for free, or the energy is not flowing. And
no, it's a total block. It's a total block.
And what I found, because I was like that, I wanted to help. And then you realize that then the people don't do the things, they don't almost value it because you've given it over. And then they don't actually implement. And we've got to get over this. I'm sure I'm one of those. I had serious money blocks and mental blocks with this.
Women who are healers, if you don't know what your past lives were, you may have been in a very challenging situation and been persecuted in a past life. So you come into this life with those gifts of healing, but being afraid to manifest them because of what might happen. And we are persecuted to a degree because allopathic medicine employ people to condemn natural medicine, to go to conferences and say why this doesn't work and why that doesn't work. So there's a massive conditioning against what we do. But
And still happening.
To a degree,
It's still happening. It's still happening. I joke with my friends. I do say definitely. I was definitely burnt at the stake. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'm sure if I did a pass, I'm sure I was one of those women.
And we don't know, but I'm sure I know. And we don't, it doesn't, the thing is, and you say it's karma. What is karma? It's something, if you don't think you perceive you've done something wrong, if you make a correction now, you've gone through that karma, it's gone. So we've got that wrong in the West as well. All it is making the wrong right. But we tend to think, oh, it's karmic, or no, it isn't. It doesn't have to be difficult. But righting wrongs spiritually, knowing you'll never make that mistake again, then you clear the karmic debt. The mind plays tricks on us, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And we are our own worst enemy, aren't we? We put so much on ourselves. And yeah, the way, rightly or wrongly, I see karma, it's just the energy you give out, you'll get back. And it's not, again, I see that some people think, oh, what, I'm getting that because I'm a bad person. It's no, not because you're a bad person. You might have just been in low vibration. You might have been feeling really, yeah. It doesn't mean you're bad. It just means that you're in a lower vibration. And I get it. It is, I find it quite amusing that it seems to, so again, perception, when I am in a low vibration, I'm consciously aware that I'm in a lower vibration. Things happen really quickly. Oh yeah, there you go. That happened. A bump into the table or bruise. Things just happen. And it's like, why can't it happen that fast when it's the other way? But it does seem to be, see, I know you talk about manifestation there. I know for me personally, the struggle, and it shouldn't be a struggle, right? I get that I put on myself with certain, I don't know, when I've tried things in the past and they haven't worked. And now looking back, I can realize what was going on was that really wanting something, that energy is in the not having it. Whereas when you can find a way to detach from the outcome, which can be, depending on your circumstances and what's going on, can take a lot of practice, right? Because if you really need something, really want it, it can feel like it's difficult to act from a place where you are detached to the outcome. But that's the thing. That's what you've got to do.
You've got to surrender. Just surrender it. And it's
so
hard to surrender. And we have such difficulties with that because we want certain outcomes to happen. But as long as we keep moving in the directions of the goals that we have, that it may change and metamorphosize, but where you'll end up is much better than you were before. And it's simply about overcoming the fears that we have about trying something new and recognizing that we are this accumulation of our experiences. And the other thing which is good to recognize, it's helped me a lot, is to know that the stories I hear in my head are not true. They're just stories.
Yeah.
But people believe.
But it's being aware. It's being aware of that. Years ago, I wouldn't have even got that. That would have gone totally over my head.
Totally.
And it does. It takes practice. It takes that level of awareness to know that's what's going on, to be able to, here I go again.
Yeah.
I've just got caught up and like that, not take yourself so seriously.
And go, stop. When I go off on Natasha, come on, Denise. And very quickly now, I put myself back into meditation. And you can do it very quickly, any time of the day, in just a few breaths. Go and sit on the toilet. There's no reason why you can't take a few deep breaths and get into that state of mind where your ego is not knocking on the door all the time. And it just
So awareness is step one. Awareness is step one. Having the tools in the toolbox. So you are here to offer the tools in your
the program
toolbox.
I have, I train people how to use the method to get into alpha level meditation, and then to use the alpha brain frequency, which is the frequency of, it's like the hypnos frequency where you're neither awake nor asleep and the mind is more alert and receptive. And you've got access then to the universal energy field, or the source, if you want to call it that, or the God force. And you can start to access your intuition. And you can do it very quickly. Just literally shut your eyes, take a deep breath, and visualize your goal and know that it's coming. You can do the meditation quickly, or 15 minutes, 30 minutes. When you're working on a solution, it might take a bit longer because you're erasing more resistance to it. But nonetheless, teaching tools, you leave the program knowing that you've got the resources within you now to start to manifest and create what you want in your life.
Brilliant.
And it's
So
very quick as well.
for anybody, if you're watching us on YouTube or on social media, you'll have Denise's details down there in the description. But if
Yeah,
anybody's just listening to this, how would they get in touch with you?
the website is www.readingswithdenise.com. And the other website, which is the coaching one, I'm not using that one anymore. I'm bringing it all into one. So there's quite a bit of work going on my website at the moment, but it's all for the good. I'm bringing it all together, and I'll have my offering for my latest program within the next month or so. That anyone can contact me about it's like creating life on your terms, really. But as I say, it's all in progress.
Brilliant.
That makes sense. But I do still
Yeah.
see the people. It's just that I'm relaunching my offering.
Great. So there's something to look forward to. So with you, and I know you've been doing this a long while, but we get a lot of coaches listening in, and I think everybody goes through certain phases within the business. For when you were starting out as a coach, what would you say were your top 3 daily frustrations?
Marketing, how to get clients, and structure. For me, it was marketing, closing it, speaking to people, to be able to get the conversation moving with people. That would be marketing, and promotion, because my generation was all word of mouth. We never had social media or Facebook. And for me, returning from Australia in 2018, and then we went into lockdown, I had to look at a whole new way of operating, challenged so many limiting beliefs that I had. How can I go on social media? I don't know how to do it. So I've undergone this steep learning. I just want to reiterate to people that you can achieve anything you want if you're willing to learn. And what was not frustrating, challenging, or things to do and learn, was to be open and receptive to learning, and not to be too hard on yourself, and to be open to the support and the expertise of others as well, because you can't know everything yourself. And reaching out to those people that can, and recognize that you can't do it all by yourself. But before, when it was literally just word of mouth, I used to go around handing my business cards out. I used to give talks to the local women's institutes and sporting clubs, and I did I love networking and going out for lunch, and I do that now. But now I'm learning. It's always about being open to learning. Don't be afraid of social media. And also recognize that it is a bit of a minefield, and that we do need help at times. There are experts such as you that we can use to support. So just remember that you're not alone.
It is. I'm still learning. But
I'm learning during this interview, and
it's constantly changing landscape, isn't it? It's a constantly changing landscape.
It's about sharing and understanding that we're all in it together. That you're not just the people that you're helping you gain rapport with them, you get to know them, you get to understand them. And that's what it's all about, to be there for that person. 100%.
And as we've said, all